Dear ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, welcome everyone to the Banana Republic. With me today we have Kaashif, my dear friend, who is also a UX expert, and we intend to speak about dark patterns. Dark patterns.
That's right.
Yeah, so Kaashif, you have some good experience working over several years in UX as a topic.
Yeah, somewhat. 1.5 decades.
Yeah, okay.
I could consider that a good experience.
Yeah, at least in this room. What is UX? UX is basically user experience, and this refers to user interfaces, if I'm not wrong, right? User interfaces of mobile applications or what we use on our laptops. We're talking about websites or mobile apps and so on.
So generally user experience is anything where a human interfaces with a digital system. It could be anything. It could be mobile, it could be kiosk, it could be app, website, your Apple Watch or anything. User experience is essentially how can you make sure that the person who's interacting with the system has the best and the quickest and the most efficient way that he will interact with it. So if you're trying to perform a task, let's say if you're trying to buy something, then what is the best way that he can actually do it? What are the best options that is available to you? So that is one. Or the other way around also. Let's say if you are consuming content, like what you do in Instagram or Facebook, how do I, as a user, keep getting engaged with the platform? That also falls under user experience. So generally it's how a human interacts with the system and how do you build empathy into the system. That pretty much is the domain of what this is all about.
You mentioned about including empathy into design of UX. How do you usually do that? I mean, this is for the audience to understand that when we open an application, it is not simply a random placement of a button or a random placement of a certain icon and so on. There is an intention behind it, and it is purposefully designed, so as much as I understand. What is the general paradigm, how your thought process is around building such a UI, typically, before we go into dark pattern?
So there are two basic, I could go into lens on it, but I would like to explain there are two basic aspects to it. One is, like I mentioned, the empathy aspect to it. The other is the technical aspect to it. The second part is the science, which is very well established. For example, if you're holding a phone in your hand and my thumb, wherever my thumb goes, ideally I would scroll with my thumb and I would perform actions with my thumb. So the closest place to my thumb is also the place which I would have most access to. So if I want a user to perform an action, like say press a button or scroll, I would make sure that it is closest to the thumb. So which is why if you see the Android version Lollipop introduced a new kind of interface. It's called material design. There's a whole science behind it, but essentially what it does is that you have your primary actions in the top right of the phone, because that is how I can go quickest to the thumb. So this is the technical aspect to it. If it's at the bottom left, it's extremely difficult for the thumb to go. So that action is going to be very difficult. Chances are, as a user, I will not do that. So that's the science behind as to where exactly my thumb placement is. And likewise on a website it's a completely different. So I have a much more different interface. I have keyboards, mouse, so I make sure that the tracking pattern and the way the places where I go and all that comes into the picture. So that's a technical aspect of it. Empathy aspect is essentially what is it that a user needs when he accesses a website. Let's say if I come on a platform and I want to buy something, right? That's a job. Let's say if I come on an e-commerce platform and I want to buy a pair of socks, right? That's a job. The question is, why is it that I'm coming here? What is my need? Is socks what I really want to buy, or am I interested in finishing my wardrobe? Understanding me is a primary component of UX. So how closely can someone who is building that interface understands me? So this comes under a category called user persona. So the more detailed the persona of me as Kaashif is being built by the website that is making the product, the better that will be for me, and that will keep me hooked to the product. And it has to be in such a way that it positively influences me. Like, it should not be in such a way that it entraps me. which is where you go into the dark side of things,
Yeah.
where it becomes a dark pattern. And
So
on
that's
so forth.
where it becomes imperative for, I would assume, these software companies to collect as much data on the user to understand what might be the user behavior, what might entice the user to make the purchase, probably what
Yeah.
might keep that user hooked on the application for as long as they
Yeah.
possibly can.
Yeah, so that is a sub field of user experience is called user research, and user research, at least so far, cannot be done using generative AI, or it cannot be automated. You have to go and talk to users. You have to understand, because that is the human part of the whole system, and that is the part that cannot be automated. So you have to do interviews, you have to make the user do tasks, you have to understand how they interface with the product, you have to record them. There are multiple ways you actually do it. And essentially, there is a concept called work practice. This is not very widely used, but it is important when you actually build a system. Work practice, essentially, let's say if you are sitting in the toilet and you're scrolling, and versus if you're sitting
Which
in
is
office,
what most people do.
which is what most people, that's how they consume content. Versus if you're sitting in office and you're scrolling, right? The context in which you're using the system is very important. So let's say if I'm a person who is like this is I'll speak based on an anecdote. Like, so there was I was doing user research for the company that I was working in, and we were building an interface where you apply for leaves and like generally you apply for a leave and the manager approves and so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So there was a sous chef who had bought the product, and there were a bunch of people in the restaurant who were actually the people who were reporting to him, and they would be the people who would be applying for leave. So he would have his laptop in the side, and he would be running around giving orders, and it's a very hectic environment in the kitchen.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so we naturally assume that when you build an interface, the person sits in front of it, performs it, and goes and so
Right.
forth. But that's
Yeah,
not how it
that's
works.
not the case.
He
This-
comes, he looks at something, and then he goes back. Then there is an interruption, and then he probably shuts down the system. Then he goes back. Then we restart the system. It has to go back to where he left it. So these are the multiple factors that come into the picture. This cannot happen if you do not understand user empathy.
Right.
And that is a significant aspect of user experience. And that is supposed to transform the application for the better. But it also gives you the power to understand the psychology of the user and to see how I can push the product into a direction where I as a company will be benefited from it, but the user will probably not be benefited from it. So somewhere I read, please fact check whoever is actually viewing, you can probably write that in the comments, that Netflix major competition is not the other OTT platforms. Its main competition is sleep. It wants people to lose their sleep and consume the Netflix content.
Lesser sleep and more Netflix.
Yes, so that's what happens when you understand the user, but you tilt it to the direction that you want to maximize the usage of the product. And that is where the whole system of dark pattern and all that comes into the picture.
Okay. What we spoke so far is that the user interface has to be user friendly, that a consumer would want to continue using it. Fair. All good. That's how a product should be. It should be attractive to the customer. But in terms of dark pattern, what you mentioned now as this example, it is now becoming shifting that entire idea into a little bit more invasive mode, wherein it is going into the personal space of the consumer, in the sense the consumer starts getting addicted to the product as opposed to truly be a beneficiary of the product. In
Addiction is one aspect of it, right? It's also the vulnerability aspect of it. So when you understand, so that's where I say that when a user comes onto the platform, you try to understand the user. And when you understand the user, you understand the plus sides of it, and how can I help the user, but also you understand what the user's weakness is. And that is where the problem is. For example, vulnerability. let's say if you're an overweight person who's coming on a fitness platform, you do understand that he's vulnerable. You understand that he's probably had a body shaming problem. You understand that there are other people who have kind of like coerced him into going into that journey. But when you understand that, and when you use that emotion, we throw images of, say, attractive people, like attractive models. This is how a perfect body should look like, and then direct him towards that and say, it's okay, anybody can achieve this shape. Subscribe to our plans. In 3 months, you will be transformed from a fat blob to Hulk.
These ads like on you consume this herbal paste and this will,
and not just herbal paste,
make you fit.
It could be a legitimate product. It could be like a proper workout routine or scheme. But you just go and say that, make a promise. Hey, you know what? In 3 months you will become this. Not taking into account anything else. Not taking into account motivation. Not taking into account where you are in from. But you're just playing on the emotion that yes, I want it, and I badly want it, and I feel bad in my own body that I want to be that person that you're showing me. That using my vulnerability against me to sell a product. So that is where it starts actually going into a direction where it doesn't really strike well when it comes to ethics.
I mean, this is not a new thing, I understand. In the sense, we always had, for instance, if you look at fashion magazines, you would always find a really slim model in it, which is a complete departure from probably how a normal human being looks like. But now, how this has completely changed, as opposed to, for instance, the 80s or the 90s when we had the television or the radio and so on, is that there used to be ads at the time as well, but they were not targeted, right? But now with this technology in place where we all have mobile phones, then it is also plausible for the companies to have extremely targeted advertisements or promotions tailored for that particular user, now based on understanding that person's needs or even their weaknesses, as you mentioned earlier.
I would like to take it one step back. You made a very interesting point about 80s and 90s, right? I would like to, if you remember back during that time, if you bought any equipment, let's say if you bought a TV, for example, it comes with a manual of disassembly, and it comes with standard screw set. It used to come, past tense. It used to come, right? And any standard screwdriver you have in your hand, using that you can just open it up, and you can just open and you can see whatever other components. Like I remember back when we were kids, there were we knew the basics, that you could just open the back of the TV and there was some wire connection or something that connects to the transformer parts and stuff like that, right? And over time, what had actually happened, we entered what you call the age of information abundance, and our attention really got diverted into a lot of things, and we stopped caring about this. And companies have really taken note of that. If you see that Apple product, for example, you cannot unscrew it, right?
Yeah, right.
Or any phone rather. Let me not just single out Apple. Any phone, any mobile phone in the platform, you can't.
These days,
you can't. Yeah. Or you need something very specialized, the kind of equipment or screwdriver that you don't have at home, and that applies to any equipment. If you have a problem with your fridge or TV or anything, the first intent in our generation and subsequent generation, I'm assuming, is for you to call for help, not for you to think, hey, let me figure out how this is. But in our parents' generation, that was not the case.
Yeah.
They would actually say, pull up a table, pull up a chair, let's see as to what we can do to fix this, right? So that is what has happened. So the fundamental thing that has actually happened is that people have become distant from how a system works, which has enabled these companies to make the system work entirely under the hood in a way that is completely alien for the user. So what you see is just the top of things, and I can build any layer under it. And this didn't help when the whole boom that happened with technology, internet and access to broadband and all. And so companies that work with user data, that is something that you didn't have earlier. So you had research. You mentioned a fashion magazine. The fashion industry is notorious for not doing research, because what they do is they expect you to buy or aspire what they want you to sell, not what is relevant for you. There are other household goods that actually work differently, but then essentially that's how it is. So marketing budget used to work in that. I'm not saying that there was no user understanding back then, but that's how it used to work. But right now, for good or for bad, with the democratization of technology, you do need to make it relevant for the user, because if I don't like it, I'll just go somewhere else. The drop off from one system to another is very easy. If I don't like something in Amazon, I'll switch to Flipkart.
Yeah,
it's that easy, right? So it's very important that Amazon has to hook me in, or Flipkart has to hook me in,
so that user does not go for an alternative.
So that along with what I said about the fact that there's a lot that is going under the hood which I don't understand as a user, has enabled the platform to optimize it to make sure that I'm hooked on it as much as possible, while working on things which may or may not be in the morally gray area.
Now let us come back to the topic of interest, which is dark patterns. Yeah, so basically what are dark patterns?
So dark pattern is essentially when product by design knows what is it, like I mentioned before, right? What the user has vulnerability towards, and uses that empathy to push for the product's agenda at the cost of doing something which may not be morally right. So one example which I can say is, this is unfortunately so common right now that many people don't even know that some of these are actually dark patterns. Say if you have subscribed for a digest, something, like you've gone to a website and decided, I have subscribed for this. How do you unsubscribe to that?
Right? Yeah.
Most people don't know how to unsubscribe. They are fine with the fact that the inbox fills up with junk. So many websites give you a link for you to go there. So in the mail that you get, right, it's at somewhere in the bottom in a font which is not really readable. You have a
very
tiny,
small font size.
Yeah, tiny button that says unsubscribe.
Yeah.
And when you tap on it and then you go to the respective website, you see that they ask you a question: why do you want to unsubscribe? If they are actually building it with a conscious effort to connect to the users, they'll probably leave it there.
Yeah.
But most companies will not do that. Some products will actually try to sell more. Hey, you know what? We have this. You will get the benefit of this. Many places the unsubscribe doesn't even work. Right? I have seen many times that you go there, you fill a very tedious form, and bang, next day, mail. Visits come from the digest. Right? So that is a very good example of dark pattern where I cannot escape you bombarding my email.
But does not that turn out to be counterproductive? For instance, if I cannot unsubscribe and I feel like I'm being played, and
that's pretty much how advertising works, right? I throw an ad in your face 100 times. You may ignore it once, you may ignore it twice, you may ignore it 50 times.
Yes, but that negative impression is created in the mind that this might be even a deliberate attempt to not allow me to unsubscribe.
Not necessarily, because everybody is doing it. That's the whole point. And it's not. I'm not even talking about shady second-grade products. I'm talking about mainstream products that I like. So, like say the food delivery apps. Like say go on the food delivery apps platform. If you look at some of the marketing content of this food delivery app, they are actually extremely well written. The subject is extremely enticing. The body is extremely enticing. I would actually want to go ahead and click, but it is not of any use for me. I didn't sign up for it, right? So it has been pushed into my inbox against my free will, so to speak, if I have to use that word. So it's not necessarily what you say a nuisance. What it does is that it bombards my mental space with ideas which is not something that I wanted to have in the first place. And that is exactly what you want. You want, as a company, to hold a conversation about it. Like I could just go and say, hey, you know what, this app is just bombarding me with mails. I don't know what the hell they're talking about, this free discount or something like that. I'm just telling you. And you are like, and you are saying, hey, tell me about that voucher. You said that there's a voucher that you got in the mail. Yeah, I don't know. I just keep getting mails. Why don't you just log into that food delivery app? They will probably share it with you. So a conversation is happening. Right? So I won't say it is not working. It definitely is working, and it is one of the primary marketing tactics that people have been using. Like it's like one of those, in 90s you have Pepsi, Ye Dil Mange More. What does Ye Dil Mange More have to do with carbonated soda?
Yeah, I mean, Absolutely, Pepsi and Coca-Cola was exactly what was coming in my mind. It's just basically a sugary drink, absolutely bad for your health. The way they have been promoting it, it has been promoted as something extremely aspirational, which a famous cricket player or
Even if you remove the aspirational part, right? I'm talking about the silliness of it. The marketing campaigns are so tangential to what the product is actually is, because there is nothing much that you can actually talk about it, right? So it's like if you watch an Apple ad, for example, you will see that there are so many features, that Apple has this camera, that camera.
Right.
What will you do about Pepsi? Look at the shape of this bottle. You can't do that, right? So what they do is they go in a tangent. They try to play on the emotion that is relevant to me, which has nothing to do with the product. And what it does is that it gets a conversation started. Add on the sprinkle the cricketer and the star power that you have, and it gets an aspiration.
And the absolute irony is that the people who pose with the bottle are all fit people.
They are extremely fit. That is how it is for all those fitness apps, right? You say,
which has nothing to do with the truth.
So those people, the photos that you show in fitness apps, for example, they look like this guy. He did not get fit in 3 months. He was probably working out since...
Or probably did not get fit eating that burger.
Or did not get fit through that workout. He probably got fit through means which are injected into the system, so to speak. So it's not the truth. But at the same time, the visuals make me believe the truth is something else. So I'll just take a step back and I'll explain what is it that these shopping portals are doing, and try to understand as to how they bend the rules. So there is this concept in design, it's called intent-driven design. Intent is where, if I'm coming onto a platform, what is my intent? What am I trying to do? Right? Let's say on an e-commerce platform, I'm trying to buy a product, or I'm trying to view my past orders, or I'm trying to change my address or something like that, or I'm trying to look for deals or stuff like that, right? These are the multiple intents that I come on the platform for. And generally, as per a good design, you do not cram too many intents in a place, because it will confuse me and it will make...
Probably it'll lead you to probably do nothing.
I'll do nothing and step out, or it will not... it will reduce my, what do you call, there's a term, it's called task completion rate. It will reduce the likelihood of me performing the task that I came in the platform for, which is like probably buying something or probably taking order, because I'll get distracted, I'll go somewhere else. Those are the intents. So usually platforms are very clear on what intent that they want to target. Now when you flip the coin, right, there is a intent that I have come to the platform for. Like say I want to unsubscribe from that platform, or let's say I want to ask for a refund. That's a clear intent that I have. But as a product, they do not want me to complete the intent. So they would deliberately create roadblocks in my path to make sure that I do not do it. Right? This is called interface.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed this. If you try to, or if you want to delete your Instagram account, it is quite a challenge to find that button. It is hid somewhere inside.
You actually have to Google how to do it for you to figure that out. And even then, if you see that the color of a button, right? If you observe something, no matter what is the logo or the brand color of any e-commerce platform, the buy now button or the proceed to buy will either be in a shade of orange. It's between orange and red, because orange...
Something bright.
No, it has to be shades of orange going towards red.
Specifically,
if you see, regardless of the brand, any e-commerce platform, if you go and see, that is primarily because psychologically, orange and red prompts us into taking an action. Red is the color of alert.
Yeah,
so we associate red with there's something that I need to avoid. So that's why errors are actually shown in red in most places. Orange is not actually alert, but it makes me uneasy. It makes me want to actually finish the task and perform. Right? So that is a psychological thing. That is why they have that. Now, in this case, it's a task which I don't want to perform. Which I want to perform, but the product doesn't want me to perform. Right? So what they do is that they go in the opposite direction. They make the button probably blend into the background, and they make it look like a regular text. So let's say if you want to delete an account, or let's say you want to unsubscribe from a product, it looks like a regular text in any of the website, and you will be fooled into believing this is just a text, and you will constantly search for a button,
right?
Which is probably right in front of you, like an invisible gorilla.
They are showing it, but they don't want to.
They don't want you to perform an action on it. So, do you know the whole invisible gorilla experiment?
No, please. What is it?
Invisible gorilla. So you can actually search it on YouTube. So I wouldn't go into what that, because I would want you or the people to actually go and check the video out. Otherwise, I'll be letting people know the whole secret about it. But if you go back and see, there was this incident that recently happened in Sabrimala, and women were not allowed. So there were security guards that were actually standing, and 4 people walked past them. Right? And that came in news. Nobody noticed these 4 people walk past them and go inside, because that is something that they did not expect or anticipate. Psychologically, your brain did not send a signal for you to observe that and react to it. So that is what is called an invisible gorilla. When something is right in front of you in plain sight, but you're focused on something else and they do not anticipate this event, you can just keep showing that event and it will not happen. And that's what happens with this delete an account, unsubscribe, ask for refund, and all these options.
Right.
And then on top of that, I will add obstacles to it. So let's say if I ask for a refund, going back to the food delivery app example, they will ask me to chat with an expert. They will ask me to, they will make me answer questions, and they will throw questions, and they will add more obstacles to it, just to discourage me from performing the task. So if you see, like, if you remember, I just mentioned earlier that interfaces try to optimize based on user empathy so that I am able to perform a task in the most efficient way possible. But in this case, they're intentionally reducing my task completion, the likelihood of me completing a task by doing something along those lines. So that is where this becomes bad. That means that if I have money invested in it, let's say if I have subscribed for something, or if I bought something which I don't like, releasing that money back to me is not very easy. And that to a large extent demotivates many people, and they just give up. Okay, fine. It's not that big of money anyway, right?
You're talking about a subscription, a monthly subscription.
A monthly subscription, right?
You want to stop it, but you can't figure out how, and then you let it go.
You can't figure out, let it go, or you come back after a few months and then you try to do it again. At which point that money actually accumulates. But the company has already benefited from those additional few months.
Right.
And I am just one of the millions of users who are using it. So it's a sizable change in their profit, which they are getting it on morally ambiguous reasons. So that is one way where dark pattern actually affects the users.
Basically, then they are, simply put, trying to fool the user through psychology, through user behavior and so on, from creating an intended result to continue using their product or their service, and try not to let the user out.
They will do whatever it takes. See, fooling is one thing. Like I mentioned, shaming is another, right? I mentioned about the whole fitness app thing, right? There is another place. And again, we are so used to it that we don't really understand that this is actually working against it. Where you go on a platform and you say, hey, you know what? I'm unsubscribing from this whatever premium service that you're giving me. Instead of saying, okay, good, thank you, sorry to see you go, they would say, you are letting go of these benefits, right? So these are the things that you will not be able to use if you unsubscribe from this. So that is a concept called shaming, confirmed shaming.
Just by my personal experience with Spotify, for instance, I love to listen to music and listen quite a lot. And these ads come up every 3 or 4 songs. And how the ads are designed in terms of its narrative is like they make you feel not so proud of being a premium customer. They feel like
that is right.
Yeah, that's how. There is one particular ad wherein there's a lady who is singing, just humming on her own, and then says, nobody else is listening to me because they have all gone to premium. Only you are there because you have not taken premium. You actually feel bad about not going to premium, and tell you what, I actually succumbed to it, and finally. So I did take.
And they also do something like they throw ads where they say it's only this much. They introduce the ad and then they say, do you want to not hear ads? Yeah, You just threw an ad in my face and asking me not to hear. Do you want to stop ads? Ad is one thing, but if you also see the frequency of ads, the more you listen to it, right, the more it interrupts you.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It adds the number of interruptions. It does not allow you to actually settle into a good vibe, because a good vibe is what the respective music products have understood is the primary intent. Consuming music and listening to music is the end product. But I want, while I'm traveling, I want to have a good vibe. That is the user empathy part of it. And if you see, they are super and hyper optimized to give me a good vibe, but they also know that they can pull it away from me if I don't pay for the premium service. And that is what they're doing.
Absolutely. That's a good example about empathy.
Empathy.
Based, does the case of, adding a final amount into a purchase also come into a dark pattern? For instance, if you're on a website to book a flight, you would see a certain price on it, and then as you go through the several further subsequent pages to reach that final order that you have to then pay for, at the nick of time, just before the final payment screen, then there is some additional convenience fee and whatever else added at the very end of that arduous process. Is that also something that comes?
That is also, and it's not just, convenience fee is something that you expect. You cannot remove it as a choice. Dark pattern comes into the picture when you have added something and they add additional stuff. If you have gone to many of the travel booking apps, for example, right? Nowadays, I see that many have become aware of the fact that users want this and they are consciously choosing not. But initially, they would go ahead and pre-select a travel insurance along with whatever flight booking that you're doing. It's an added cost. I never chose the travel insurance. I didn't want it. Or any other conveyance from airport to my place or anything along those lines. So these are options that I have to manually unselect. I remember there was a domain registration company, GoDaddy, if I'm not wrong, where I would go ahead and I would register a domain. But right before purchase, it used to give me an additional year. So that, and it would say, hey, you know what, you don't have to renew for 2 years if you just pay this much money, right? And it would present the interface in such a way that I'm getting a great deal. But I never wanted 2 years. I just wanted it for 1 year, and now it's confusing me and making me believe, hey, you know what, 2 years is fine. And that's pretty much, that's the equivalent. So when you go to a shop and you want to buy a shirt or pant or something, and the salesman would try to upsell it, and they would say, hey, you know what, do you want to try this? This is fine. But this is the equivalent of you coming to the counter and you're pulling out the credit card and you're about to tap it and then putting a finger on the credit card. Hey, you know what? Take the shirt. And at that point, most people will like, fine, you know what? I'll just take the shirt.
I've already spent so much time.
I just want to get it over with. So, but it becomes so much more accessible with digital products, and it's become such a mainstream, and the threshold is very less. Usually these amounts are not so big that you feel it is not worth the time and investment for you to actually go ahead and do it. But they get added up, and the respective companies get it. So that money is one aspect of it. But the biggest aspect is not even money. If you see that a lot of these digital products owned by private equity, they are on the hockey stick growth stage that they are in, right? Their main intent is to capture the market at any cost possible.
As fast as possible.
As fast as possible, at any cost as possible. And for that, they are willing to take heavy financial losses to make sure they do that. And the best way to do it is to pull a user to keep coming back on the app. So the more a user engages with the product, the more he will be hooked onto it.
And reduce the customer acquisition cost by not...
that is called, it's not acquisition actually. That is called retention. Retention is what they're trying to improve. Acquisition, obviously, through these ads, banners and stuff.
Net new customer.
The new customer, and getting them hooked onto it. The more he's hooked onto it, tomorrow if I increase the prices and I make it outrageously high, the user is already hooked onto it. His habit has transformed to being dependent on this product, and he has somewhat built his lifestyle around it. If I'm a person who goes to a grocery store and buy groceries, and if my habit has transformed to use this food delivery app to order groceries home,
You're dependent on that new system.
I have stopped going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Now I want it. Now I know that, okay, fine, you added another $100 as delivery charge, screw it.
Yeah.
That requires me to take the effort to get out of the house and build it. So that habit,
take your car out. If you have to find a parking, walk to the store and buy and then come back.
Yeah, I have already been programmed for convenience at that point. And once you are convenient, you're not going back to a less convenient mode ever.
Absolutely.
So that is the space that they play in, not as much as the money. Money is actually a small component of it. My eyeballs should always be on the product, and you should not stray away from the product. If you see some of the OTT platforms, let's say you have started watching a series or a movie or something like that, if you've seen that, the next time you come on the platform, the option to resume your playback will not be the most prominent thing.
If it will not be shown on the top.
It will not be shown on the top because
they will be offering new series or movies for you to get hooked on.
They will curate based on whatever I have already watched, and they will try to throw in something which may be relevant for me, so that I've already decided that after watching this, I will end up watching that.
Right.
And then I'm more
the pipeline is being built in that
even
sense.
Before I finish watching something. And this has worked so effectively, and this is why, if you see, if I make you watch an 8-hour movie, chances are you will not watch.
Right.
But if I throw it into these segments of episodes, and if I convert them into series, I will sit and binge watch the hell out of it. Because at the end of every one of those 40-minute thing, I'm getting a dopamine boost, and then go ahead and forward. And this is over a completely new dopamine boost, a completely new series, new
You're
cast.
excited about it.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And then there is no way I'm getting out of that platform.
Yeah.
You can charge me a bomb, and I will pay for it. Because I'm looking forward to seeing what else I can actually consume over there.
Right. So, is there any particular check and balance against this unethical design practice? And basically, where do we draw that line between designing a product to make it user-friendly as opposed to designing a product to be invasive into users' purchase behavior?
Actually, the business side is a much harder problem to solve, right? Because the business is driven on acquisition and retention. So it's much harder to solve when the ask of the business is to keep the eyeballs on the product, right? And it is not the ask of the business, it is the ask of the people who are funding the business, rather, so to speak. Because that's how you increase the valuation of the product. That's how you push it to a later stage of valuation where you can sell it, or it goes to IPO or something along those lines, right? So until the macroeconomics of that is going to change, the business ask is going to be very difficult to actually change. But from a design perspective, when you prioritize a user and when you actually come across as someone who has empathy for the user, that in itself could be a strategy that they follow, which stands out among all the products. If you see, for example, Signal did that when the whole Mark Zuckerberg trial came in. Hey, you know what? You will be safe on our platform. That benefit is...
But that comes only through customers being aware of this at the first place.
That's correct. So the second part, which you are talking about, that's actually a good point. How do I, as a customer, know that this is happening, right? The primary thing is to understand what are my trigger points. Being aware of a simple thing, that there is no such thing called a free meal, right? And everything takes patience. If something is free, chances are it's going to cost me a lot more than something which I have to actually pay for. Right. So if you see, I'd like to give an example of Curiosity Stream. Curiosity Stream is essentially an OTT platform. I believe it's from the founder who set up the earlier CEO of Discovery Channel, I guess, if I'm not wrong. Right from the bat, Curiosity Stream was a paid service. No bullshit, paid service. You come here, you watch educational videos, you get out, right? You don't pay, that's it. You won't watch it. Simple, right? So the communication is very honest. So they're not enticing me to come on the platform, to stay on it, and they're not playing with my emotions.
Right.
My content is good. If you feel my content is good, you'll come, right? So there is a very clear transaction that is actually happening. And once I come on the platform, I'm actually impressed by the content that they have, and it is the usefulness of the content
that makes you stay.
That makes me stay, as opposed to all these additional design innovations that actually make me get trapped into the content. That is one way. The second thing is to understand is what are my triggers. Let's say if my trigger to go on a fitness app is my bad health, or is my bad diet, or if my trigger to go on a shopping platform is that I'm emotionally feeling vulnerable at that point of time, right? Many times we use this word retail therapy has become a thing right now in platform, right?
Shopping for cure.
It's how is it a therapy? It's not a therapy if your wallet is over. Therapy is where you actually go to a therapist. So retail therapy is not a therapy. Retail therapy is an escape mechanism, and it doesn't solve anything, it doesn't fix anything other than probably put a hole in your wallet and give you a momentary satisfaction.
And bigger trouble in terms of finance.
And it's an endless loop. You buy a brand, you buy an aspirational brand, you pick a bag or a wallet or something, you are going to end up buying more. It pulls you into the trap where the brand is actually waiting. It's like, there's a tiger's den over there. I go and sit in the front of tiger den.
That's what, for instance, happens with iPhone users, right? They keep buying iPhone, whatever latest is released. They continue to buy it, even if feature-wise they may not be nearly as good as any of the other Android phones.
Right. So even if I don't talk about tech, right, I'm talking about something as simple as, let's say, a luxury brand, right? If you see luxury brands, their main merchandise is extremely expensive, but the ones that they want, and that's not where they're making money from. The ones that they want me to buy are the ones that are sitting on the front shelf. Because I am the target. A person who is not rich enough to buy their merchandise is their primary user. Right. So I will get an entry into their brand through probably a perfume bottle or a wallet or a hat. And once I get associated with it, and once people look at me and say, hey, you know what, okay, look at this cool guy, he's actually wearing that hat or bag or something.
Yeah, then you get the validation.
Then I get the validation,
motivates you.
And the loop doesn't stop. Then I say, you know what, I will buy more. I'll buy more. And then it just keeps going. So understanding where this emotional trigger happens is a very important thing. And being able to realize that no amount of shopping can actually bring you happiness or satisfaction. And you probably need to wait for 10 seconds, take a few breaths and realize, is this something that I really need? And then sleep on it.
Yeah, I think it is very important before making such purchases to understand if this is an impulse decision or if it is something that I really need.
Yes, actually.
So then, as you mentioned, take a moment to really go through that thought process and come to a conclusion whether that you really need this or not.
And more importantly, sleep on it. You sleep on it, and if the next day also you feel good, hey, you know what, I stopped myself from buying the decision, then you know it was an impulse. Or if you feel like I still need this, then then you may probably want to go into that direction of that. And even then, if you look at it, for example, if I want to buy sneakers, yes, I would like to wear the sneakers which Mo Farah wears when he goes for a run. I am not Mo Farah. I am never going to be Mo Farah. Chances are I probably don't need those sneakers. Right? So all these brands, they target these high performance. This is what Olympian athletes are playing, but they are Olympian athletes.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Not only that, they didn't wear those shoes and become Olympians.
Most likely,
Chances are they became Olympians long before. If you give them chappal, they will probably still run an Olympics and win.
Because they have the talent.
They have the talent.
The hard work. It's not the shoe.
Yes. And understanding that, by the end of the day, me with my love handles jiggling is not going to be anywhere close to Mo Farah is the realization that I need to have. And realizing that it is going to be incremental, and this is the third part of it. The third part is it takes time for any transformation to have. Whether anything that gets me on let's say I'm going through a depression phase, which makes me want to watch series and try to get over the depression, or I'm doing what you call the food coma. I'm so upset, my manager yelled at me, which I'm sure is for most Indians at this point, and then I just say, hey, screw it, I'll just order some food, right? Understanding that this is not a problem I can solve today. This is a problem that I may not even solve tomorrow. This will stay with me, but this unhealthy habit is going to add on to my problem, and then I will have two problems to deal with.
Right.
And realizing that is not a happy scenario is probably one thing that we can do. And the last thing, obviously, is that there are some things that I cannot consciously control. It's how we are programmed. We have evolved subconsciously. We, as animals who have developed binocular vision, you do know the difference between binocular vision. So, animals who have evolved binocular vision evolved it to get a greater clarity on a more limited field, visual, what do you call that, depth of field or whatever, as opposed to animals like deer or cows who have a much greater field of vision, because they would like to see where the predators are coming from, but they don't have a larger, richer visual clarity. So we can perceive colors probably better, we can perceive depth and three-dimensional stuff much better than those other animals.
Right.
So I cannot control how the environment is going to actually throw this stimulus at me. So if I'm bombarded with colors in my notification banner, chances are I would scroll through it. It's not that I'm consciously doing it. That's how the system is designed. That's how our body is designed. So understanding that, you probably will need to work on, let's say, that's a mode that Android recently introduced, where it actually makes all these colors go gray. I forgot what that is. But essentially, yeah. So turn that mode on. And then
which makes it not so attractive.
Yeah, it actually turns off the. It makes it go gray. Right. So that, and then limiting the notifications that I get, the amount of interferences that I can
consciously selecting notification settings.
Yeah.
As per and giving permission for applications where you really need a notification.
Yeah, and organizing your stuff. So if inbox is going to be bombarded with stuff, then organize your mail. So you have labels, you have rules, putting an effort into organizing them, and and drive all the unwanted mails into those specific labels, and just keep what you need to consume on your main inbox page. That will give you an intention as to whether I want to respond to this today, now, or is it something I can do later. And if chances are, if it's something I can do after 2 weeks, I probably don't need it.
Right.
I'll just have to go ahead and delete it later. And that is something that I will inherently know. Nobody will have to tell me to do that thing.
Yeah.
So that, sorry, you were saying.
No, so basically this is, we are that kind of first generation to which internet has been introduced.
Yeah.
And like any technology which comes first, there would be misuse. And it is up to the consumer, as much as now I understand from this discussion, to learn about it, educate themselves, and make amends in terms of how to deal with that. So this is not a...
It's like back, 70s or something, the height of Arnold Schwarzenegger days, right? That was the first generation that got access to what you call multi-gym.
Right.
So you had machines back then, and everybody wanted to just warm up a bit. So if you remember, when we were kids, we used to go to gym, and we used to ask that, when do I start using those machines? That multi gym, that is where I want to be.
That's what will make me look.
That's
like
what will make me look. Push-ups, no, that's too mainstream. Bench press, okay, but I want the thing that does this. So that is what I want. That will give me Arnold chest. And so that eventually, now that died out. Now people know that body weight works, basic powerlifting moves work, calisthenics work. So you don't need to do all that random stuff. So back then, if you remember Mark Wahlberg, Marky Mark, he had a workout program where he used to show extreme videos and pull-ups with a small range of motion, because you can do more pull-ups and you look cool. But now people know more quality, more range of movement, better joint health. So that awareness will come over time. Like you said, we are in the initial phase of that. But till then, we have to mitigate these habits, because removing a habit is actually going to be much harder than building them in the first place.
Right, yeah. Which is why we wanted to have this discussion, and really glad to have Kaashif in the room, and thanks for bringing light to this particular topic.
No problem.